Carlos, can you unmute yourself?
Yes.
Carlos, did you get my WhatsApp about putting the plaque up?
No, doesn't ring a bell.
Oh, I was wondering if you could put the plaque with the 7 factors of awakening on the little
It's
tripod.
up. Yeah, it's up.
Oh, it is up. Okay.
Yep.
Good. Thank you. Hello, we have a Sarah Thomas who I haven't seen before. Welcome. Get our timer ready to go. Another new name, Stefan Lang. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Good evening.
Where are you joining us from?
Madrid.
Okay.
North of Madrid and close to the Sierra, Torrelodones.
Ah, Tarragona, I know that a little bit.
So,
Kind of in the foothills, I guess, huh?
yeah. Fresh air.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to mute you though for this moment here. And we'll wait till Carlos gets seated. Carlos, it looks like you kind of do everything. You're like running all over the place.
No, fortunately, I count on help from other volunteers.
Oh, good. Glad to hear that.
So Alicia today helped me set up basically on her own all of these spots.
Oh, well, thank you, Alicia. So maybe I'll say a few things as in case the doorbell rings, a couple more people enter. Maybe people will come via Zoom. I say we have Emilio, welcome back. Lara, welcome back. So as most of you know, we're going to start our session with a 30-minute meditation. Before we start, though, I thought I would remind us kind of what we've been doing over the last couple weeks and maybe explain how we could connect that to this upcoming practice that we're going to do. So we've been talking about the 7 factors of awakening, 7 factors of illumination, depending on who translates it. Found out that Bhikkhu Analayo likes awakening and Bhikkhu Bodhi likes enlightenment. So, and they have their reasons why they translated the Pali into that. But either way, either awakening or becoming enlightened. And so we were talking about mindfulness last week, which is the essential ingredient for all the other factors and really for just about anything. That's the stabilizing presence of mind. And we're going to talk a little bit more about mindfulness today. And then we're going to hopefully have time to start on the second factor, which is the one I want to introduce for our practice. And that is investigation. Investigation, of which some commentaries, yeah, have said is possibly the most important one, investigation. And I'm going to read a little quote from, he's become kind of our friend. Oh, what'd I do? I lost him. Give me a second here. I won't share screen, but I'll just read it. So this is Sayadaw U Tejaniya, Burmese monk, living Burmese monk who has some very pithy but wise quotes. He says, most yogis, in fact, you know what? I think I am going to share the screen. It just for you guys can follow along. Most yogis watch the breath only to calm the mind down. As a result, they may watch the breath for years, yet not know much about it. It's because the mind is not interested. It just wants to calm down. In practicing Vipassana, or insight meditation, the motivation is very different. The mind wants to understand. It wants to understand what is happening, and if it wants to understand, it can understand. So short little guidance by Sayadaw U Tejaniya. And so how we can put that into practice is to be curious, to have an open mind, to try not to have any preconceived ideas or opinions or wants or expectations or views about whatever you're putting your attention on, which could be the breath, might be the body, might be sounds, which is usually what we do is we give 3 options depending on how you're feeling. But for any one of them, try to just see if you can have as open a mind as possible, a beginner's mind, a know-nothing mind, you might say, and then just see what arises. See what you can notice. See what you can learn. And this really is the core of investigation. Investigation is being as open as we can be to whatever phenomena arises. So we will start off though with calming, as we usually do. We'll try to center the mind because it's really hard to go straight into investigation. That's why it's the second factor, not the first. We need to establish some mindfulness. We need to establish a little bit of concentration first. Okay. So I think what I'll do for our meditation is I'm going to pin the sala. And is there any questions or anybody who'd like to say anything before we start? Okay. So we're going to go for 30 minutes, 31, 32, it often ends up being. Since no questions, I will start the timer. And welcome to all of those who have joined just recently that I didn't get to say hello to personally. Okay, so here we go. So let's find a comfortable posture. One that is noble, you could say. That is, your back is straight, your shoulders may be slightly back, your head slightly tilted forward. You want it to be stable. We usually want like a 3-part, like a tripod stability. So if you're seated, you've got your tailbone and then your 2 legs. If you're on a cushion, if you're on a chair, again, the tailbone and your 2 feet. And we want to try not to move. Try to stay embodied. Embodied. And so just try to feel your posture. Find your body, feel your posture. Make any corrections you might want to make. Any stretches or movements. Just kind of land here, now, in this present moment. So using your mind's attention, your awareness, feel your posture, your body, the sitting body. Now this sitting body can be an anchor for your attention so that when the mind wanders off, which it will do many times, you have something to come back to with your attention. As we've talked about, if the mind is not paying attention to something, then it'll usually, in fact, maybe always go to default mode, which is to think, especially about itself, about me. So we don't want to spend too much time there thinking about ourselves while we're practicing. We want to be present in this present moment. So we come back to an anchor and we put our attention on it. So it could be the posture, the body, sensations, whatever you notice, the weight, points of contact, just the sense of sitting, just holding the posture can be your anchor. Maintaining stillness can be your anchor. Feeling noble can be your anchor. Or you can use the breath. So let's find the breath. So it's also in the body, but it's more specific, narrower. Takes a more narrow focus. So you can follow the rhythm of the breath. That's a very nice anchor. Or you can get even more precise and pick a spot, the movement of the belly, the movement of the chest, the sensations at the nostrils. If you've been practicing a long time, you probably have your favorite spot. If not, try them out for a couple breaths and see where it's relatively pleasant or at least comfortable. And let that be your home base, your anchor. To return to when you notice the mind is drifted off into thought. And thirdly, if the body is just not a comfortable place for you today, and that does happen sometimes, then maybe just let sounds, hearing be your anchor. A receptive, waiting for sounds to enter into your ears, touch your eardrums. Can be very calming. So we pick an anchor, the sitting body, the posture, or the breath, or hearing. And let's just start off practicing with that, coming back again and again, trying to stay with it with the right amount of effort, not too much, not too little. You'll know if your mind drifts off easily, maybe more effort. If you start to feel tension, less effort. If you're sleepy, I recommend the breath. If you're anxious or excited, I recommend the body posture. Doesn't mean you have to do it, but that's what I would recommend. So buena práctica, and I'll give some more guidance as we get close to the 20-minute mark. If you have been working with the breath, and yet there's still lots of thinking, maybe obsession, you might try dropping the attention into the body and feeling whatever sensations might be present. Maybe there's some tension or anxiety or stress that could be, or even excitement that could be causing the thinking mind to react. Just try to feel the body, feel those sensations. See if that doesn't interrupt the thinking mind a bit. So hopefully the mind is a little more settled, a little more grounded into the body, into the present moment. So maybe we can transition to a Vipassana style meditation. Vipassana is often translated as insight into the true nature of our experience. So, utilizing the investigative qualities and the open mind, and this is optional, you can continue working with the breath or the body or the sounds. But if you want to try this Vipassana, so just let whatever arises arise, and bring your attention to whatever it is and just notice it. Just observe it. So if it's sensation in the body, including pain, or sounds, including my voice, could be the breath, could be thoughts. We try not to judge any of this, make up any stories, interpret it, none of that. Just notice it. Sometimes I will imagine that I can see with my eyes closed and observe these phenomena by looking at them, even though my eyes are closed. For some reason, when I approach it that way, I can often get into that observing place that we all have in the mind, that imperturbable observing place. But sometimes we need little tricks to kind of get our awareness into that place. So I'll often pretend I'm just looking at the sensations, looking at the sounds, looking at the thoughts. And you might have your own little tricks, but just let whatever arises arise. And when it passes away, we notice that it has passed away. And we allow whatever is most obvious to be our anchor. So the anchor will constantly be changing. Okay. Very good. So if you're willing, let's return our attention to the body, no matter where your attention has been, what your objects, anchors have been. Let's come back to the body, re-infuse the body, re-establish an embodied presence. Some of us that might be kind of like shaking off whatever had occurred. And then bringing your attention to your heart center, to the chest area. We'll just close with a little metta or loving kindness practice, gratitude practice. So feeling your heart space and then thanking yourself, literally in your mind, thanking yourself for your practice, the goodness of your practice, the fact that you have chosen on a Sunday to take care of yourself, connect with yourself in this way. I know it's not always easy. And then imagining you could extend out this gratitude, this thank you to those present in Saladana and on this call, Zoom or YouTube. Thank them as well. And then radiating out in all directions, goodwill, gratitude. And then when you hear the sound of the bell, just being aware, noticing what arises. I gotta find the stick. Here it is. Well, thank you all very much. It's nice to see some new, at least squares on Zoom. We have a Dario, hello. And a Yolanda, hello. I think Javier, I think is probably not new. Hard to tell from that box though. Your box looks kind of similar to others. So before I kind of launch into some words, is there anybody that has any questions or would like to share, reflect on the meditation?
Yeah, Jim, just a quick thing, and this might be what you're going to.
Can you hear Damien?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. When you were talking about investigation, and then when we get into the Vipassana, section. I just wondering if you could talk a bit about the difference, because investigation sounds like something you do, something that's active.
Yes.
Vipassana is about letting things happen.
Yes.
What you're going to talk about, but how the two things kind of go together or not.
Yeah. Well, we are going to talk about that. And, you know, the problem is really the word investigation. It's probably not the best translation of the Pali term, which is going to escape me or is escaping me in the moment, but we will see it because I'm going to refer to Joseph Goldstein's book. Very common kind of, I don't want to say mistake, but it is misleading, that particular word, especially in the Western world, where investigation to us means, you know, digging in and you know, finding root causes and, you know, going back to our ancestors and, you know, looking at our family tree and all this kind of stuff. But in this context, it doesn't mean that at all. What we are investigating is the true nature of experience. And we do that by allowing it to arise and observing it mindfully. And that's basically what investigation means in this context. So we're not going to do any homework. We're not going to get out our family tree and try to figure out, you know, why did these thoughts arise or whatever. That would be kind of a different kind of investigation. Damien, did that help?
Yes, thanks.
Okay. I made the same interpretation originally too.
May it be Dhammavikaya? I'm not reading it correctly from here, but I think on your table it says something like that.
Say it
That's
again.
the word?
Vikaya? Yeah, that's
Dhammavikaya?
right. Dhammavikaya, exactly. Thank you, Carlos.
It's on your table.
Oh, I was going to say, good memory. Yeah, you know, just about every Pali word is subject, you know, to our attempts to translate them and then get it with exactly the right flavor, and it is quite difficult. It's like, you know, the most common one probably is dukkha, which has mostly been translated as suffering, but it isn't confined to just suffering. It's much broader and can mean just slight irritation. It can mean stress. It can mean unsatisfactoriness. So we have to be a little bit careful with the Western words, you know, the English and Spanish words. And that's why some teachers will use the Pali words, like we'll just say dukkha or karma, kama, rather than trying to use the translation, because they can often be very misleading. Well, thank you. Anyone else have anything they want to say? Or okay. Well, what I thought I would do is go back to Joseph Goldstein's book on mindfulness, because I really think it's a great guide for the 7 factors and just to remind us. So the list, the 7 factors of awakening, is found in the 4th establishment of mindfulness from the 4 establishments of mindfulness. So we can get at it, and it shows up in a couple other suttas as well. But the one that mostly in the West, in the Vipassana insight meditation school, you might say, of Western Buddhism, the 4 foundation of mindfulness is kind of our core teaching, maybe even more than the Noble Eightfold Path. I would probably say that it is probably the core teaching. And within that 4th foundation are these 5 lists, of which the 7 factors is one. So I'll bring it up just so we can remember. And let's see, that's Kindle. This was that. Here we go. So you can all see that list, right? 7 factors of awakening. It's kind of weird how, I don't know what I've done with my extra information, it seems like, in my thing there, but hopefully you can see it. And those of you in Saladana, it should be up on the board. But for those of you on Zoom and YouTube, here we have it. So we've got mindfulness, which is what we talked about a bit last week, and we're going to talk a little bit about more this week. Investigation, energy, rapture. These are the energizing factors. And then tranquility, stillness. You could also call it concentration. Another one where the word samadhi doesn't have a perfect Western translation. Some people prefer stillness, others concentration, and there are even other possibilities. Thank you, Google, for telling me how to spell Spanish words. And then the last one is equanimity. These 3, the tranquility, stillness, and equanimity, are the calming factors. And then mindfulness is like the fulcrum. This is what keeps it all in balance. So last week we started on, so Joseph Goldstein refers to this book by this fella here, a Buddhist and Pali scholar, Gethin, about how he defines and explains what mindfulness is. And I think this is worth going over because some people might get the impression that mindfulness, which the Pali word is sati, is the same as attention, paying attention to something. And it is more than that. It is more than that, and in very important ways. So I thought it would be worth going over how this guy Gethin puts this together. So he's got four key characteristics of mindfulness. So one of them, starting with not forgetting. And this is kind of closer maybe to the translation of sati, which means to remember, kind of literally. So he says the first application of mindfulness is the quality of not forgetting, not losing what is before the mind in the present moment. So like if we're paying attention to the breath and then we drift off, in a way, we have forgotten the breath, right? Because now we're off in a thinking mind. So we're staying with whatever is in front of the mind. You could call this stability of awareness. So that's the first quality, you might say, or characteristics. Second one that he offers is presence of mind. So I'll just read what I've highlighted here. The second aspect of mindfulness is its quality of standing near the mind. That's kind of an interesting visual, I think. Standing near the mind, which manifests as being face to face with whatever is arising, rather than giving it only a sidelong glance. So like in the second part of our meditation, when something arises, whether it be pain, sounds, sensations, we're with it. We're present with it. We're not just giving it, as he puts it here, a sidelong glance. We're not just letting it be at the periphery. It's right in front of us. Boom. And he points out an interesting deal right here. I'll put that in blue. Directly facing what is arising guards the gates of the sense doors. Now, this is something that you will see a lot in Buddhist teachings about guarding the gates of the sense doors. This is because the cause of our suffering is attachment. And the first of the 4 types of attachment is sense desire, right? Wanting to connect in sounds and hearing and seeing or tasting or whatever. So we guard against that because that is the slippery slope where pretty soon we're attached to sense pleasures. Let's see. Okay, remembering. So as he writes here, the third aspect of sati here we go, is one that he writes that we don't often associate with mindfulness, but in fact, it harkens back to its root meaning of remembering. Here, mindfulness calls to mind or remembers. This is the key part right here. Right here. Here, mindfulness calls to mind or remembers what is skillful and what is not, what is inferior and what is refined, what is beneficial and what is harmful. So this is a big deal, right? This is more than just paying attention to something. This is paying attention to something and then observing the mind, being aware of the mind, and noticing whether we go to a skillful place or not, to something beneficial or not. Do we go to aversion? Do we go to greed? Or do we go to allowing? Do we go to compassion? So it's almost it really is it's an active form of awareness. And I like this also right here. Mindfulness thus becomes a key factor in strengthening our inner moral compass. And I don't want this to sound, like the 10 Commandments or some, mandate from above. It's not like that, because with practice, with mindfulness, the moral compass arises naturally, and we become attuned. We're able to discriminate about what is moral and what isn't. And thankfully, because our nervous system, our mind, our brain is plastic, and it changes and can change over time, we reinforce the skillful, the beneficial, the wholesome, and we let go of the unskillful, the unbeneficial, the unwholesome. And over time, they just start to arise on their own. More and more. It becomes our inner moral compass. He kind of gets into shame, which this was something that surprised me, because in modern Western psychology, some people have even talked about how shame really is unnecessary. It's like an appendix, we should just get rid of it. But in Buddhism, they actually have what's called useful shame or moral shame, where shame can actually serve a positive purpose, to remind us that maybe what we're doing is probably not wholesome. But there's quite a bit here, and I'm going to skip over that to go to the last one, which is here. And also, I think just so important, and it just shows how mindfulness isn't just attention. So he says here, close association with wisdom. And for many people, wisdom is the gate to freedom. Like if you were to stretch a little bit further outside of Buddhism and go, let's say, to the Advaita Vedanta, non-dualist schools, they believe that is the key to to the cessation of suffering, wisdom. It's the opposite of ignorance, right? So the last aspect of mindfulness is its close association with wisdom. And this goes to Damien's point. This comes about through bare attention and clear comprehension. And this, our brains absorb so much, right? And it affects our perception, it affects our opinions, it affects our views. how we see this so much in the world today, where we've got people who don't think that, for instance, the vaccine works, or that even that COVID is real, or that, in the United States that Donald Trump actually won the election. I mean, we've got just crazy different points of view. And so in Buddhism, the teaching is really about trying to strip away or set aside all those perceptions, those things that can influence how we see the world, so that we can have a bare attention, an attention plena, or Kabul, where we just see things as they really are. Naked and bare, he writes, because it is simple, direct, non-interfering, non-judging. Oh my gosh, how hard is that? The brain is constantly judging, right? I mean, this is human nature. This is survival. Where the brain is immediately trying to discern or judge whether this thing is helpful or not, or is it dangerous or not. And so we become addicted. Many people are addicted to judging, just judging. Well, that just gets in the way of seeing things as they really are, because we cannot judge without all of our history influencing whatever it is we're judging. I like this. He had a teacher named Manindraji in India, and his teaching was simply sit and know you're sitting, and the whole of the Dharma will be revealed. And it really is as simple as that, as we just need to sit and know we're sitting. So, maybe just to summarize on the mindfulness part, it is not just paying attention, right? It's bringing with it these active qualities of presence, remembering, wisdom, and you could even say a sense of morality, a sense of what is wholesome or not. Now, most of the time, just being with something and observing it from that observing place that we talked about a little bit earlier is the most wholesome place where we can be, and nothing more is needed. We're just sitting, we know we're sitting, we're aware that we're sitting.
Lo siento, no te he oído. ¿Podrías volver a decir?
That is very interesting. My phone is talking to me in Spanish. I didn't even touch it. So most of the time, just sitting and being aware that we're sitting, being aware of the bodily sensations, the breath or whatever, that's enough. That is wholesome. That is skillful. But other times, we may need to use some helpful words. We may need to use some encouraging words. We may need to etiquetar, to label our experience. And this is all good. These are helpful, wholesome, skillful uses of words. So it isn't like we're talking about no words at all, but we want to be, because you can be mindful and be labeling, right? And in fact, I would say, if you are labeling your experience in that moment, you are being mindful. It would be more likely that you're not being mindful if you can't label it. Because if you can label it, you're paying attention to it. And if you're labeling it, you're using skillful means. So we can do that anytime. Like you get lost. I mean, this happens, right? We get lost, we're thinking, we can't seem to come back to the present moment. So we can use those labels, those names, those etiquetas, right? We can thinking. This was Jack Kornfield, one of his favorite things to tell us. Thinking, returning, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. While you're doing that, you're being mindful. We can do it even out in the real world, right? We're walking down the street. We can just pay attention, and we can even say to ourselves, stepping, right? Walking. Okay, what do we got in terms of time? Because I've been really enjoying the walking meditation. I hope you guys have as well. So then just kind of calculate. So we got 17 minutes. Yeah, so maybe we'll start with a little bit of the investigation. Any questions? Anybody want to say anything about mindfulness? And there are entire courses, right, on just mindfulness. I mean, this could just go on and on and on and on. But I think for this purpose, we'll end with this and go to investigation, which, as you probably remember, is the second factor. So what I wanted to impart about investigation that I think is so important and so difficult is to try to have a beginner's know-nothing mind, right? And there were a couple quotes that I'd like to mention. There's a teacher out of the Bay Area named James Perez, and I've actually sat with him on long retreats a couple times. He was my main teacher, and I often will follow his podcast, or it's not exactly a podcast, but it's on Dharma Seeds, which has a ton of talks. And he had one recently on this know-nothing mind. And he quoted the third Zen patriarch of China. So we're going back, almost 1800 years or something. A couple quotes that I think can be very helpful. The first one is, stop talking and thinking, and there is nothing you will not be able to know. So I'll say it again. Stop talking, and this often gets me because I sit here and I talk to you guys, and partly I kind of just want to shut up. It's like, Jim, shut up. But it would make for a funny Dharma talk if I didn't say anything. So stop talking, stop thinking, and there will be nothing that you won't be able to know. Right? Because it's very hard to listen. It's very hard to take stuff in when we're talking and when we're thinking. His second one is, do not search for the truth. Only cease to cherish opinions. Do not search for the truth. Only cease to cherish opinions. So even with investigation, where we want to see things clearly, we want to see deeply, we could bring our opinions, our views into that, and it is going to distort it. Now, the more we learn, the more we practice, the more wisdom we obtain, then that we bring to the attention should be more helpful, more useful, more skillful over time. But in my opinion, we're talking decades, at least years, if not decades, right, to really get that kind of wisdom. Best to go in it with an absolutely know-nothing beginner's mind. And, just to remind, as I think I mentioned at the beginning, there's 4 types of clinging that the Buddha talked about, and it's the clinging, the tanha, the craving that causes our suffering. And the 4th one is views, points of view. He was aware of this, how our point of view, our opinions can get in the way and cause us to suffer. I mean, I know they do for me. I have so many damn opinions about so many damn things. And almost always, when I try to get people to agree with my opinions, I suffer. The other three, just to be real quick, so I'm doing them backwards. The third one is rites and rituals, something that, or is that the second one? Maybe I'm not going to do them exactly in order, but rites and rituals. No, that's the second one. The third one is a concept of self. So clinging to a concept of self that, I'm a teacher, or I'm an American, or I'm a Real Madrid fan, or whatever it is. And then we have rites and rituals. So you can get too clingy about that. No, I've got to sit in exactly this way for exactly 40 minutes with my eyes open and not move. And, this is the right way to do it. I mean, maybe, but we don't want to cling to that too tightly, right? Oh, and then the first one, as we talked about, is sense pleasures. Clinging to sense pleasures. And I'll end with the investigation, and we'll probably talk about it a little bit more next week. But so this is a quote from Suzuki Roshi. You've heard me talk about Suzuki Roshi quite a bit. He was the founder of the San Francisco Zen Center. And he writes, "In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities. In the expert's mind, few." So in the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities. In the expert mind, few possibilities. So hopefully that kind of launched us with investigation and dispel those ideas that we have to do some research, go to the library or something with this investigation. We don't need to do that. We just sit and know that we're sitting. Okay, so how about we stretch our legs for about 6 minutes and do a walking meditation? Does that sound all right? And for those of you who are new to walking meditation, so we're just going to pick like a 2-meter long path, and then just be aware of your feet touching the ground. Be aware of your legs moving, your feet touching the ground, your body turning, coming back. And same thing, when the thoughts start, just bring them back, bring the attention back to the feet. And maybe it'll be 5 minutes, and then I'll ring the bell and we'll come back and do a final meditation. I'm going to do it as well. Yeah, just putting the attention in the feet, feeling the feet, touching the floor. Let that be your anchor. Thank you for coming back. Hope you enjoyed that little brief walking meditation. So, does anybody want to say anything or have a question about their practice or anything we've talked about? Okay. So why don't we end, as we usually do, with a little brief metta meditation. And for those of you who may not be familiar with metta, this is another Pali word. We spell it M-E-T-T-A, which can translate as goodwill or benevolencia. Benevolencia, I guess, would be the Spanish word for kindness. Loving kindness is a word or a term that was adopted in the 70s by Sharon Salzberg, as you often will hear that, loving kindness. And the idea is that we want to offer this goodwill, this metta, to ourselves and to others. And we cultivate it. It's a bhavana. It's a type of meditation practice where we cultivate these heart qualities. And we do it initially with phrases. If you're on long retreat, it will then actually become simply sensation, intention and sensation. But we start off with phrases. So I'm going to offer 4 phrases for each of the 4 groups, and you can say them to yourself, or if you're at home, you can even say them out loud. So these are like wishes for goodwill for ourselves and others. So I'll start with me, I, us. May I be happy. Right? Sometimes offering this to oneself can be a little bit challenging, but this is usually how we start. May I be happy. May I be well. May I be safe. And may I live with ease, without struggle. And then our second group is a being who you love unconditionally or you admire unconditionally. So it could be a family member, could be a public figure, could be a pet. Just imagine this benefactor in front of you, in your mind's eye, and let's offer metta to them. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be safe. May you live with ease, without struggle. So for the third group, we often call this the difficult person or the difficult being. And whether it's them or us who are difficult, it's hard to know, but if we have a little resentment towards somebody, or maybe they did something to hurt our feelings or didn't do something that we wish they would have, just try to imagine, remember somebody some being that might fit that definition. Let's offer them metta. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be safe. May you live with ease without any struggle. I find that one works almost all the time when I'm feeling resentful towards somebody, and I'll just start sending them metta. And now all beings. May all beings be happy. May all beings be well. May all beings be safe. May all beings live with ease. And then lastly, in the tradition of renunciation, of letting go, we'll offer up the fruit of our practice today, the teachings, our Buddha nature, our Sangha or community. Offer these up to the benefit of all beings. May all beings be happy and peaceful, healthy and strong, safe and protected. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering, free from war and violence, discrimination, racism, coronavirus. May all beings have enough to eat. May they have shelter. May they have love and family. And may all beings find their factors towards awakening, their factors towards enlightenment. May all beings be free. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Jim.
And I'm so glad that next week I will not have to do this by Zoom for those of you in Saladana, because I will be there.
Yay.
Very much looking forward to that. But for those of you who do come on Zoom, we will transmit instead of into Saladana next week, it'll be from Saladana. So you're all invited. Just a couple quick announcements. First around Dana. This is another Pali word, and I believe also a Sanskrit word. And this one can mean like generosity or giving. And it is how we are running, you might say, Saladana, hence the name, in which we offer all these sessions freely from our heart in the spirit of Dana. And you also can practice Dana. You can make a financial donation by, leaving whatever feels comfortable to you in one of the boxes in the front. And when I'm doing it, I ask that you just put it in the Saladana box to help with the gastos, with the expenses. But if another teacher is present, like Josie or Carlos or whoever, if you could please put it in the teacher's box as well, because many people depend on that. And and you can also help clean up. Please put everything back. That would be very much appreciated. And if you see something out of place, like a water bottle or, some paper on the floor, whatever, if you could help clean it up. We do have somebody coming once a month, but it is kind of our space to share. And I also wanted to mention a retreat coming up, which Carlos, do you know if the retreat that Jerome is offering in December, is that one that's going to sell out real quick or?
I have no clue.
Okay, I did send him an email. And let me just see if he responded real quick.
I think there are two durations. You can choose a shorter version or a longer one, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, that, which I thought was very interesting. I'm going to just share screen with you guys real quick in case you are interested. So you can either do the 3rd to the 12th of December or the 3rd to the 8th. And it's in Salamanca, so it's not terribly far away from Madrid. I know Jerome, and Carlos knows Jerome, and he's a very experienced practitioner, and he leads a very fun, kind of humorous, sometimes Vipassana style retreat. And that's also now on the Dhamma Madrid website. I've got a link to this, so you could just go there and see it. And I think that's it. I want to thank you all for coming. I want to thank Carlos for his service. Very much appreciate it. Not sure how we do it without you, Carlos. And yeah, did I miss anything? Is there anything else I should mention? Or
Maybe just that there's something going on practically every day in Saladana.
right, there's something going on practically every day at Saladana. You can just go to the website, saladana.org, or I think the hours are posted outside. We also have a Thursday group, normally led by Martina. I think this Thursday was by Josie. That's also in English. So if you prefer the English, we now have 2 sessions a week. And yeah, stay in touch.
Thank you, Jim.
Hopefully you guys will go have, yeah, you'll see me very soon. Okay, well, thank you
Jim,
all.
safe
Thank you for those
travels.
of you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Robert. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye, Robert.
Bye.